Welcome back. Have you ever wanted to get inside your teenager's head? Yes. And find out what's really going on.
Do you really want to know?
Yes.
Okay.
So I can curtail it. I'm especially curious as it comes to when it relates to driving.
I bet you are. So today we put together a great group of teens and an expert to talk about life behind the wheel, what it's really like. So we're going to introduce you. First up today, we've got a familiar face. It's Ann Scallon, the publisher and founder of Before the Wheel, which is an online magazine for teens and parents. And then we've got 16-year-old Molly Burns. There she is. She's normally modeling on a runway. Today she's going to talk about driving. 16-year-old Evan Stroud, who got his driver's license 2 months ago. Woo. And finally, we've got 18-year-old Matthew Wheeler, who's Denise's son. So we're going to get in his mind for you. Welcome to all of you.
It's Weiler, can I just say?
Oh, what did I say, Wheeler?
Yes,
sorry.
you did. That's okay.
I'm so used to saying Kotarabic.
I know,
I never say your other last name.
All right. Now everyone knows.
Okay, so welcome you guys. I think this is exciting, and let's start with you, Ann, because this is what you do every day, is that you work to make teens safer drivers. Do you think we really can get inside a teen's head, and what kind of things do you hear when you talk to teens?
Well, I'm really interested in hearing what they have to say today about, scare tactics and different things. The 16-year-old driving age is one that safety experts don't agree on.
Oh, so they don't?
They don't agree at all on that. So it'll be
do they think it should be 18?
A lot of them think it should be 17 or 18, but then there's a whole group that says you really lose that influence over the teen the older they get. And the graduated driver licensing program is working in every state, and that really works well with the younger drivers.
Okay, so how do you feel? Do you think 16 is a good age?
I do think 16 is a good age, and I think it's realistic for our community and our country, because people in the suburbs, once they have 1 or 2, 3 people in high school, it's a logistical issue.
Oh,
absolutely.
It's so awesome when they
like
get their license. I don't know about you guys, what your parents thought, but when Matthew got his license, I'm like, no, drive yourself. Go yourself. Go pick up your sister from practice. I mean, do your parents like that you now have your license?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah?
It's pretty nice.
What are some, okay, when it comes to distractions, or the conditions of the road, anything, do you guys think you can handle anything at this point when you're driving?
I don't think that personally I could handle everything, because we don't have every experience under our belt, but I think teens should be prepared and ready for every situation that they come across.
Yeah, same. The most thing you can do is just be prepared and just take precautions on what's going to happen. So like slick roads, what if your car goes out of control, like what you're going to do, you just got to be prepared for that.
And there's something to be said about experience now, Matthew. What do you think is one of the biggest distractions that you face?
Well, for me, texting and driving is obviously like a really big distraction, but things like navigation with maps too, and then like switching songs, playing with like the radio and the car settings.
Right, so you got to almost find yourself not trying hard not to do that, right? Because you don't like the song, you want to switch the station, things like that.
Yeah. Well, and just cell phones in general. You guys, it's a generation that's connected to their phone, second by second. So putting that down while you're driving, I'm sure has been something that's been ingrained in you. But when it comes to things like mistakes that you see other teens make, so you don't have to call yourself out here, but even when you're with your friends who have their license, if it's an older friend or someone your age, what kind of mistakes do you see people making consistently with young drivers?
I'd say breaking the restrictions, and because when we get our license, you have restrictions like you can't stay out past 11, you can't have so many people in the car.
You only have one, I think, besides yourself, right?
So I think that's something that teens seem to be breaking a lot.
And you see them do that quite a bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you guys?
And something like along the lines of speeding, because mostly teens feel like, I feel like I can do anything when driving, but I really can't. So, because there's these laws that you still gotta abide by. So,
you get a little overconfidence.
Yeah.
Right?
I think when you start off, you like when I started off, I'd always drive the speed limit, try to be good, and then the more you drive, the more confident you get.
Right.
Yeah.
Matthew, for example, a few of his friends, when they first got their license right at 16, we're not going to name names or anything, but they got into accidents. Quite a few of his friends got in accidents right away. And I asked him, how does that impact you when your friends get into accidents? Some of them were kind of bad.
Well, it impacted me because I have to drive them everywhere now. So I got like more experience.
I can attest to that. Who are you all driving now?
It's also like, it kind of like woke me up a little bit, like, oh, I still have to be careful.
Yeah.
Let's be real honest too, because there's a lot of parents home watching. There's lots of other, teens home right now still before they go back to school or whatnot. How about alcohol influences? We all like to think, oh, you're underage, you're not having to deal with that. But do you see that being a pressure or something that drinking alcohol or drinking and then being able to drive just to get home so parents don't know?
Yeah.
I think teens do experience that, and like personally I don't put myself in those situations, but it's scary to think that I could be on the road with teens that have been drinking.
Yeah, and it's out there too, so you're not really hidden by it. And I just feel like there's these stories that happen where teens get in these accidents because they're under the influence, so you just gotta always watch out, like what's happening.
That can be impactful.
Well, especially you as a senior, right? You're a senior this year. It's even more of an issue, I think.
It becomes more of a problem as you get older, and you just gotta watch out and be smart.
Do you ever say anything to friends who you know, or people that you know if you've seen them drinking and you say just don't drive?
Would you say something to?
I would.
Yeah, you guys too.
Like, don't ever take a chance with drinking and driving, because you're putting other people's lives in danger. As well as your future if you get a DUI or hurt other people.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't go away.
Amen,
quickly.
Matthew.
The other good thing to do in those situations is kind of think of a plan B. If you have a friend who has particular behaviors, you really need to kind of pull that friend aside at a time when you're not driving and talk to them about it. And if they really can't agree to a change, you might have to tell them, I'm not going to be a passenger in your vehicle. And really have a plan B going forward. Not only telling them, but also maybe have a parent or brother or sister who can pick you up if that happens again.
And I want to ask you too, what do you think music these days is music, loud music, a distraction for teen drivers?
No.
This one's right here.
Yes, loud music's a distraction for teen drivers. I do think everything's a balance though. If you start having like, don't listen to music and don't do this and just this whole laundry list that isn't realistic, then I don't think the teens are going to follow it. So just get them used to just kind of maybe listening to some background music, and but no, the loud music isn't going to help them, because if an ambulance is coming or something is changing in the traffic situation, they cannot hear what's going on, and it's your life at stake and your passengers, who are the most important people in your life.
We want you to hear something, because we do have a sample of what Matthew tricked Denise
car.
into putting into his car.
I feel like I was tricked.
So we want to know if this is a distraction. Check out these subwoofers.
I don't even know if you can hear how loud that is, but you can see the
You can almost feel it though.
you can feel it outside the car. The whole
It's a real
earth
popular
shakes.
thing for teens though, that they want kind of, the newest, the coolest, the different things like that. How do you feel about subwoofers?
I definitely am against it, because
You are. See, Matthew?
There's not really any good goal to it. The important thing is to remember is the getting together with your friends is the event you're going to, and the car or vehicle is the means of transportation.
That's a great point.
That is a good point.
That's not the party. The car is not the party.
Right.
See, Matthew, now what do you think? Is your car the party? Are you he won't shovel because he's driving his car around all the time because he loves his woofers.
Everyone loves to ride in my car, but it is like, it can be a distraction, but as long as you're not playing with the music or the bass settings, then I think you're just cruising and chilling, listening to music.
Yeah, I told him, you can't have it blasted all the time, and because really you can't. You have to stand next to the car to actually experience it. But Bob and I like to say this is one of our biggest parenting mistakes with Matthew so far.
Right.
Tricked.
One of the best
If that's it, then I think you're doing all right.
Okay, good.
You're really interested, though, Ann, in these scare tactics. What do you mean by them, so that they can kind of talk about how they feel about them? What's a scare tactic you hear in the media?
Well, I find that a lot of videos come out showing strong situations where someone's using the cell phone and they get in a big crash, or presentations at the school. So I wanted to hear from the teens, do you feel interested in hearing that? Do you feel it has a short or long-term positive effect on your behavior?
I definitely think that these messages that they send out to the teens really get to them, because you hear these stories about how someone's in this fatal car accident when texting, and you really start to think about, like, are you doing this correctly? Do you really want to end up in a car crash that can basically change your life. So
I kind of think the opposite, because I think some teens think they're invincible and that won't affect them, it won't happen to them, but in reality, it's going to affect you at some point. You're going to get in a situation where, you know, you shouldn't be, and sometimes I think they work, but I don't know.
Matthew, do you think they work?
Yeah. Depends on the kid, but most kids, when they like see things at school, they don't really pay attention to them. For me, it was kind of my friends getting in accidents all around me, kind of woke me up and made me more cautious.
Is there anything your parents said to you? We'll start with you two first, so you can really think deeply about this. Something that was meaningful, though, that you do listen to and really has been something that you take on as a new driver?
My dad told me to always keep your head on a swivel. So always know your surroundings, always know what's happening around you, and make sure you're checking the road conditions before you go out in the winter.
I like that, head on a swivel.
I like that.
my mom just said always be prepared. Like, look at what's going to happen, because you never know what's going to happen the next second. Maybe a car can pull out of nowhere and just you can smash right into it. So you just got to always watch out.
That defensive driving. How about for you?
I think one of the
nice.
one of the most important things like I think not hitting the car in front of you and staying in your own lane, because that's one of the easiest accidents to get into is rear-ending someone from like a small lapse in attention. So just pay attention to the car in front of you, keep space, stay in your lane, and then the accident most likely will not be your fault.
Right.
There you go.
That's one thing I did say, stay in your lane. You know, when they're first 16 and they're driving, it's like just don't ever panic because you're seeing too much around you. Just stay in that lane. You watch your speed, stay in the lane. So I don't know if that maybe that sunk in. So
that's great.
I really like the head-on swivel idea, because that is a big concern with the younger drivers. They're not taking advantage of that peripheral vision and what's going on. And people in the other lanes, if they're distracted, they can cut right into your lane. So you have to kind of be aware. Another thing to take advantage of is when you're a passenger, watch what the behaviors are of other drivers, and it will really get you to be more cautious.
And have the confidence to speak up. Thanks you guys so much for being here.
That was great.
Matthew, Molly, Evan, great. I love it. We feel like we're in your brains a little bit more. So, Ann, thank you so much, too.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And you can find out more about Before the Wheel, supporting safe teen driving, by visiting the website beforethewheel.com. There's great information about how to talk to your teen as well.